Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the new MDs, moms, doctors, and scientists working together to heal our children. I'm so happy to be here today. My name is Zen Honeycutt, and I'm thrilled to be the M of the new MDs, one of them anyway. We're all moms here, but the MC. And I'm here with Dr. Stephanie Seneff. Hello, Stephanie Seneff.
Hi.
The scientist, with Dr. Michelle Perro and scientist Stephanie Seneff. And I'll introduce first. Stephanie Seneff is a senior scientist at MIT. She's also the author of the book Toxic Legacy: How the Weed Killer Glyphosate is Destroying Our Health and the Environment. Welcome, Stephanie Seneff.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Thank you. Stephanie's coming all the way from Hawaii. We so appreciate you being on the show. And Dr. Michelle Perro is a pediatrician of over 40 years, and she is the author of What's Making Our Children Sick, which is an incredible book. I highly recommend it. She's also the author of the book Making Our Children Well, which is coming out soon. When do you think that will be coming out, Michelle?
After the summer.
Okay. All right. So within 2025, we'll be seeing your new book. That's fantastic. Michelle is also the founder of GMO Science, which is the very gracious host of this show. We so appreciate GMO Science and your funders. And yes, Educate to Regenerate. She has a lot of incredible information on there, including the V Symposium. I just want to put a plug for that. I'm the MC of the V Symposium as well. A lot of people are needing that information right now, so please check that out. And I'm the author of Unstoppable. It's a book about transforming sickness and struggle into triumph, empowerment, and a celebration of community. Again, I'm Zen Honeycutt of Moms Across America, and I'm delighted to be hosting this show. This show is about shifting the narrative, how the upcoming change in governmental leadership with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at the health helm, the head of the HHS, will bring an end to the chronic disease epidemic in America. How excited are you? We are so excited. Yes, so many of us have known Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for over a decade, and we know not only that he is a compassionate and intelligent person, but he is a man of integrity. Having worked with him with Moms Across America for about 7 years now, I know that he will not speak about things unless he has the science to back it up. Many of his friends are doctors, right, Michelle? And scientists and farmers and researchers. And so we're really thrilled about him being at the head of the HHS when he gets confirmed, right? So now Moms Across America has long been working on this subject. Creating healthy communities has been a part of our mission. So we're completely in alignment with Make America Healthy Again, regardless of which political party would have put forth, that tagline. And you can see that from the data on our website. So I'm just going to review a few things about why it's so important to focus on making America healthy again, just in case you've missed some of the data. Moms Across America has launched a school lunch testing program. We did this about 2 years ago and found that out of the 30 million genetically modified school meals that children are served each day in America, we tested 43 of them, and out of them, we found glyphosate in 93% of them. We also found pesticides in 76% of them, which included an aviary contraceptive, which prevents birds from laying eggs, something, of course, that we are very concerned about that our children would be eating on a daily basis. We also found them to be 100% positive for heavy metals, up to 6,923 times higher than what the EPA allows in drinking water. It's extremely detrimental to our health. And we found that that fast food, which supplies food to school lunches, was also across the board just completely toxic. 100% positive for glyphosate, 76% positive for harmful pesticides, 100% positive for heavy metals such as lead and cadmium, and also the bird aviary contraceptive, and harmful antibiotics found in the top 10 fast food samples, including a drug called butadiene, which contributes to combativeness and aggression. Now, these facts that are on our website about what's been found in the food are extremely disturbing, and we're hoping that they are going to make change. And this is why we continue to do this work. Now, we're happy to see that there already is some change happening. One is that the USDA has recently announced a $15 million a grant for organic dairy to be going into schools and youth programs. So we're grateful to the current administration for that change. We're also grateful that the USDA is offering now organic market development grants. So this is for farmers and food manufacturers who want to bring organic products to the market. This is fantastic. I don't know if you remember, but when we got started Moms Across America about 12 years ago, we could maybe find organic milk. This past Thanksgiving, I was thrilled to, we had the pre-made pie crust, we had organic sugar, we had organic cookies, or like any type of food that you want now organic in America, you pretty much can get it. So this type of or grants to bring an organic product to the market is fantastic and really makes organic food more accessible for everyone. We also hear through the grapevine, by the way, that there is a fast food company that is reformulating. So we can't talk about it yet, but stay tuned with us, and eventually we hope to be able to share which one, or maybe hopefully there'll be more than one fast food company that will be reformulating their foods. Now, again, one more time, why this is so important is because we have been seeing, and as Michelle will share with her patients, and I've been seeing in my personal life, that when we eat organic and we get the toxins out of our food supply, we don't get sick. I've heard many people concerned from the Democrats that the new administration will, get rid of healthcare. Well, my response to that is actually, if Kennedy's able to do what he wants to do as at the head of the HHS, we won't even need healthcare. I'm not saying we don't need the structure of it. I'm saying we won't be going to the doctors because we won't be sick. And I see that in my own family. My son, Ben, who is 21 now, for the past maybe 10, 12 years, he's been eating only organic, and he has not had to go to the doctor one time for a sickness. He's only gone for a checkup. And we recently found he just needs to eat a little bit more meat. Stephanie, I'm sure you'll relate to this. Fats, right? And that's the only thing that he needs. So we're excited for America to not have to go to the doctor. Wouldn't that be amazing, Michelle?
Put me out of business. I can imagine, but absolutely. And imagine if we learn preventative care as healthcare providers and nutrition.
Yes.
That's going to be in the wrap up. But yes, this is a wonderful show.
That's what I love about this show too. So if you're wondering why we do this show, it's been doing it for 2 years now. It's because we love the idea of a mom like you might be watching. You might be a mom, or you might be dad, or just a student. You might be somebody who might want to actually have conversations with a scientist and a doctor who listen to you, and you can have a conversation about what's going on with your health and work together to resolve your health issues or your family's health issues. So this is a dream come true for me. And we're going to get right into the details throughout the show about how we can make America healthy again, and address the monumental changes that are about to happen, what should and could happen, which are all in alignment with what Bobby Kennedy has said he wants to do and Trump has mandated, which is to make America healthy again. So Stephanie, if you were America's chief scientist, what would your priority for MAHA be?
Absolutely, glyphosate. I feel like we have to get rid of the way we're doing agriculture today. We have to shift it to being 100% certified organic agriculture. And that's probably going to be small farms. We need to go back to the concept of small family farms. And, Robert Kennedy Jr. is one of the lawyers who sued Monsanto for glyphosate, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That first lawsuit, which has had so much repercussions afterwards, practically making Bayer bankrupt trying to defend itself against all these lawsuits. So shout out to Robert Kennedy for that. I knew him way back when, even before I knew about glyphosate. I knew Robert Kennedy because of my interest, our common interest in the vaccine issue. But glyphosate to me is number one. And of course, toxic chemicals in general. You get rid of glyphosate and substitute with atrazine, it's not going to work. You've got to get rid of all of those herbicides. They are very toxic. Insecticides, the fungicides, all of them have to go, I think. And it'll take time, but we need to move in that direction. And the government should be subsidizing the people who are converting their agricultural fields to certified organic, because you get into a limbo state where you can't sell your product as an organic food because your soil is toxic still. You have to go through a process and get approval before you can actually sell it as organic. They need help to be able to transition. And that's something the government could do, is just change that money that they're giving now to encourage them to grow these toxic crops, switch it over to encouraging them to convert to certified organic. So glyphosate, number one. And if you've been watching my videos and my presentations over the past year, you'll see that I've picked up on deuterium. I want to mention deuterium now, and I'll get back to it in a moment. Deuterium is heavy hydrogen. It is a very big problem in the mitochondria if they get too much of it. And mitochondrial dysfunction is associated with all these chronic diseases that are going up dramatically. And because I understand how glyphosate works, I understand that glyphosate messes up the body's ability to handle deuterium properly. So I think that you can connect the rise in glyphosate usage over time, which matches perfectly with the rise in obesity, autism, ADHD, all these conditions that we're seeing, Alzheimer's, cancers. They're all rising exactly in step with the rise in glyphosate usage. And I think that this issue of glyphosate messing up deuterium is central to how glyphosate is causing all those things. So we can start with the overweight. The New York Times. Anne, you want to put that up? Yeah, 3/4 of the U.S. adults are now overweight or obese. This is a New York Times article coming out November 14th of this year. It's from a study in the Lancet. You know, we keep on getting fatter and fatter over the past 10 years. We've also already gained a lot more weight. We were already too fat back then. And now we've got 3/4 of the adults and many of the children as well are overweight or obese. And that is part of what's causing our health crisis, because those are associated with all kinds of other diseases. And then, so this is the life expectancy. And I've seen this chart, very striking when you see the United States sitting out here all by itself. This is the amount of money you spend on healthcare. And this is the life expectancy for all these different countries. And you can see most of these developed countries here are doing, all of them, I think, are doing better than we are on our, when we die. And whereas we're spending much more money than the next country on healthcare. So we are doing something very wrong. And I think what it is we're too generous in accepting all these toxic exposures. Many things are not allowed in Europe that we allow here, like those food dyes. So many things. We're just too lax on exposing our population to toxic chemicals. And that's why we have this healthcare crisis. So then I think you have a map of glyphosate, just to show the glyphosate across the country. This is estimated usage by county. It's just, and this was in 2021, I believe. And so you can see all this usage in here in the Midwest and coming down the Mississippi River. They have a very high rate of cancer in New Orleans. And it's also messing up the ocean down here, which I think is driving the excess hurricanes that we're seeing, the really high-powered hurricanes that are coming up, I think has to do with glyphosate messing up the microbes that are coming out of the Mississippi River into the Gulf of Mexico. And so
Stephanie, can I stop you just for a second there? Can you just summarize, or maybe Michelle, you can jump into and just connect the dots for us on how glyphosate and deuterium are connected to obesity and all those health issues. What's the primary function that's going on? How is glyphosate impacting how the body works and destroying the body's function?
I'll chime in on glyphosate because there are the two key things that it does. It's an antibiotic, and it binds the essential minerals that your body needs, which are nutrients, which run about, let's say, 200 reactions in your brain. So that disruption of your microbiome, those microbes are your first line of defense against detoxification, production of vitamins, and the production of the chemicals that run your brain called neurotransmitters. It binds up the essential minerals, like which ones? Zinc, magnesium, copper, manganese, calcium, and these are all essential minerals bound up by glyphosate. And Stephanie will talk about another study in a minute where that was found, and it was key for ruining some crops. We'll get to that.
Yes, that's coming soon.
But no one can talk better about deuterium than Stephanie. Stephanie, maybe you want to answer part B about glyphosate and deuterium, please.
It's really fascinating science. I got completely hooked on it. Laszlo Burrows introduced me to deuterium in December of 2019. And just like when I learned about glyphosate from Professor Don Huber, which was in 2012, I basically just started learning everything I could about deuterium because I immediately saw what glyphosate does is going to mess up the body's ability to keep the deuterium out of the mitochondria. And we know mitochondrial dysfunction is associated with all these chronic diseases. And so if I can explain how deuterium and glyphosate are working together to ruin the mitochondria, that does everything, really. That explains everything as far as, how can one chemical be correlated with so many diseases? This is how it can. I'm very excited about it. And deuterium, by the way, has been studied much more extensively by the Chinese and by the Russians. Here, we hardly even know what it is. Even the scientists hardly know what it is.
And we covered this in episode 17. We have a whole episode on GMO science.
Yeah, I've got a picture
go
of that
back
in a moment.
Because we're kind of ahead of what people may be knowing, but this is important stuff. And understanding that mitochondrial disruption equates to metabolic disruption, which equates to the metabolic disorders we're seeing, such as obesity and diabetes. And just to tag on, because I love to focus on kids, anywhere from 1 in 3 to 1 in 5 children, it varies by state, are obese now. And obesity is not benign. It's linked to cardiovascular disease, autoimmunity, cancers, and of course mental health challenges because of low self-esteem and other things. So this is not a benign disorder from a clinical perspective. I just had to put that in there.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
what I will say is the glyphosate disrupts the enzymes that metabolize fats in the mitochondria. And fats are a source of low deuterium nutrients. So if you can't metabolize them, your mitochondria are going to build up deuterium, and you're going to build up fat because you can't process it. You can't consume fats properly. So you just pile it up into your body. It's very simple, actually, and really quite remarkable.
Well, it's simple for you, Stephanie, but for the rest of us, we're still getting the hang of it. But that map did demonstrate that 280 million pounds are being used of glyphosate every year on our food supply. So it is no small factor. It is the largest contributing factor to chronic illness in America today. Dr. Don Huber, who most of us learned about glyphosate from, says that glyphosate will make DDT look like mouthwash. And the fact that it's on almost every meal that we're consuming, especially if it's not organic, is something that is of grave concern to us. And we hope to more and more Americans today so that they can learn about it and choose to eat organic. Now, there is evidence, Stephanie, that I hope you can talk about, of how very small amounts of glyphosate in chicken manure and in the soil can impact crops in an unexpected way. Can you talk about that new study?
Yes, and in fact, you can put up that slide about the saga of soggy sauerkraut. This is a great paper by Don Huber, along with some collaborators. Really, really interesting and very, very sad because it's organic. Organic cabbage making sauerkraut that turns out to can't be sold because it's too soggy. And they were like, what is going on here? This is supposed to be organic. How can this be happening? So they did a deep study on it. And what they found was quite amazing, because they found that it actually did have glyphosate in it quite a bit. And if you show the complicated next, yes, there you go. Thank you. This is from their paper. There's a paper that they wrote and published, peer-reviewed, and they have this complicated figure here, which I won't go into in detail. But of course, glyphosate disrupts the shikimate pathway. That's well known, very established, which of course the microbes have, and so it messes up our gut. But this is in the plants. Shikimate pathway. The shikimate pathway is so crucial for so many things, but particularly you see this phenylalanine tyrosine. All these green guys come out of that shikimate pathway, and they are essential for building healthy cell walls through all this complicated stuff. So the cell walls are defective in the cabbage, and that's why when you try to ferment it, it gets messed up and it's not edible. And they also found they have a patented secret formula of microbes, combined microbes to put into the soil to actually clear the glyphosate. And this is something I'm very excited about, because I believe, just like with the gut, I believe you can clear glyphosate from the gut if you have certain bacteria that can metabolize it. And the same thing applies to the soil. So they've got some special formula that they've worked out with microbes that they put into the soil, and it actually reduced the glyphosate by a lot in the soil. So of course it's coming from the manure. They're not using glyphosate on the crops. It's coming from the manure, and that comes from chickens, and the chickens are eating glyphosate loaded foods. This is how we have to go even further with organic. I was actually shocked when I first found out that you didn't have to use organic manure in organic farming. So there you've got, you've still got your glyphosate coming in. So we need to really get rid of the glyphosate everywhere so it won't end up in the manure.
There's something important in that study I have to hand out from a clinical perspective, is that the microbe that they used to remediate the soil and get the glyphosate out was Lactobacillus plantarum. There are a lot of practitioners now using a certain strain of Lactobacillus plantarum for anxiety and depression in children. It's called Lactoplantarum PS128. So we are now using probiotics for depression, anxiety, and mental health challenges. But that goes back to the dysbiosis, that abnormal microbial collection. They found that within 7 to 8 months, they were able to remediate the glyphosate from the organism, breaking it down, because those microbes take out the phosphorus and the nitrogen and can utilize them like apple cider vinegar.
Exactly. It's actually nutritious, like cyanobacteria, which produce these toxic metabolites that cause, the red algae tide, red tide. Those cyanobacteria produce the red tide, and they metabolize glyphosate. They get phosphorus, they get nitrogen. It's a very good source of nutrients. In fact, too good. That's why it causes the cyanobacteria to overgrow, if you can break it down. But most things can't break it down. Our cells can't, the plants can't, And many of the microbes, most of the microbes can't. And actually, Pseudomonas aeruginosa is one of the microbes that can break it down. And they've become a problem in the hospitals with, Pseudomonas infections that you can't treat. I think it's there because it's helping the host to get rid of the glyphosate. But of course, it's causing nasty side effects.
Well, we know all about the nasty side effects. In fact, Stephanie, you put out a paper with Anthony Semcel years ago predicting 40 different Western medical diseases being connected to glyphosate. I was told by other nonprofits that focus on health and the food supply that it was a Looney Tunes that somebody would connect glyphosate to that many diseases. But when you talk about, Michelle and Stephanie, about how glyphosate actually functions, I would assert now it would be hundreds of different disorders, mental health and reproductive disorders that glyphosate is connected to. So for anybody who is curious as to why we keep railing on about glyphosate and why every other word out of Stephanie's mouth is glyphosate, and the rest of us, I would just strongly urge you to read her book and to check out her previous, many previous papers. Stephanie, I know that you have a little bit more about what you would want to have happen this new administration. Can you talk about what you would like this administration to do?
Yes, absolutely. So this is I found this. I've been reading a lot of Substack articles that have been coming out, analyzing the situation now with the new administration. And this was one I like McCullough a lot. And this is McCullough along with Nicholas Hutcher. He collaborated with him on this article. It's a long article. And the title is A Call to Ban Gain-of-Function Research. But the article is actually much broader than that. But I think they have singled out gain-of-function research as being a very, very serious problem. And that's one of the things that can be done with this new administration is to get rid of it. They actually did ban it in 2012, but then it went underground. And they ended up funding, U.S. ended up funding research in Wuhan, at the Wuhan laboratory, involving gain-of-function research. This is to make viruses more toxic. And so we know how to do it. And they have done it in such a way. It looks like the SARS-CoV-2 virus has to have come out of that lab. Just from the way it looks, it doesn't make sense that it would have come out of a natural process. And it's been designed, in a sense, to kill. And so we have this huge epidemic as a consequence of it leaking out of that lab. We cannot let that sort of risk continue to happen. So I think we really have to ban this gain-of-function. We'll have to do it worldwide, but our administration can start by setting an example.
Stephanie, essentially, I just want to sum up for our audience. Are you essentially saying that gain-of-function research is basically a type of bacteria warfare?
Virus warfare.
Viral warfare.
Yeah, okay. They're designer viruses that are intended to be very, very toxic, able to transmit easily and then to have a very toxic effect. It's designed. That spike protein is engineered. And that's what's causing it to be so damaging, both if you catch the disease and if you get the vaccine.
And let me add on here, we've been dealing with, bioweaponry since the 1930s. A shout out to all the victims of Lyme disease and co-infection. That was the original bioweapon. And for people who want to learn more, Bobby Kennedy interviewed Chris Newby, who wrote the book Bitten, a scientific journalist who looked into the history of bioweaponry with Lyme disease. So this is not the first go around in terms of bioweaponry. And this is why Lyme disease and co-infections are incredibly difficult to treat because they're engineered, just like the COVID virus. And we knew that from the work of Luc Montagnier, who won the Nobel Prize for HIV research. And he was the first one in February 2020, I believe, to say, this is a nice mosaic of various organisms, viral. So many organisms, like the organisms found for Lyme Borrelia, have been lab produced.
All right. Well, you're confirming what many moms are feeling in their homes when they see their kids very, very sick, or their family members from COVID or from Lyme or from some of these other issues, that this is not normal. There's something that's wrong here, and that's why it's very difficult to treat. Thank you for clarifying that. So what else?
So the thing is, we're very clever and we know how to do these things, but that doesn't mean we should do them. We should recognize that it's just too dangerous, and that even though we know how, we shouldn't do it.
Just because you should doesn't mean it ought to be. That's a fallacy I learned in high school. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Stephanie. What about this framework? Can you walk us through this?
So this framework is a part of that article. So that article starts off with this gain of function, and this is just their list of 12 things that they expect could happen in this new administration, because we have such a change in the way things are running right now in this country. We can hope to do a lot of amazing things. And they're focused on the vaccines. The first 8 or 9 are on the vaccines, and then the last 4 on the corruption. So I'll start with the vaccines, and of course the gain of function ban it. That's their most important message, and then immediately withdraw those vaccines from the market because they are too toxic. People need to be aware they don't want to get any more of those vaccines. We've got enough coverage at this point with everybody getting the infection already that we don't need to have a vaccine against this disease. It's become something more like the flu, I think, even though it is a very serious virus and you have to be careful, but there are other ways to treat it.
Well, it also mutates far too fast for the
I know the vaccine can't catch up, so you're always behind, and so you're never, the virus is going to always outsmart the vaccine. And the vaccine
it's
actually,
not a vaccine. And in the CDC changed the definition of vaccine so they can include this technology, which is a genetic modification. It's essentially a GMO. So, our children have been injected with the technologies that's experimental and harmful, because a paper just came out showing how that spike protein was found in brains causing all kinds of neurologic diseases. So this would be for an immediate ban of mRNA technology. We're going to take out the word vaccine, and let's reverse the CDC definition of what a vaccine is.
Right. That's a very good point. Thanks for saying that. Now, this, of course, I would love repeal of this 1986 Compensation Act, because that is how things really got bad with respect to the childhood vaccines. The industry had a field day, rolling out all kinds of new vaccines without proper studying to make sure they were safe and effective. They didn't need to, because if they killed the child, it was fine. They wouldn't be sued. That gave them a get out of jail free card, which caused them to become extremely exuberant in producing all these vaccines for diseases that we really shouldn't have vaccines for. Childhood diseases are a part of growing up, and they actually train the immune system to make it strong. And the vaccines do the opposite. So when you get all these vaccines instead of getting those diseases, you end up with a sick immune system as an adult, and you get autoimmune disease, you get cancer, all these problems come about because your immune system has not been properly trained because of all these vaccines. I believe that. So that
also you've introduced so many toxins into the body through the injections. So
absolutely, the vaccines are not safe, and they need to either find a way. But I actually think we should allow people to get those diseases if we stay healthy by eating healthy food, getting out in the sunlight, getting exercise, not getting fat. I mean, children can recover. The ones that die from these diseases are the ones who have a sick immune system. They're not healthy because they're not eating well. They don't have enough vitamins. There's all these different ways in which you can be susceptible to dying from a childhood disease. But if you're healthy, you won't even have symptoms. You won't even know you've been exposed to this virus.
So, the thing about those vaccines are those added adjuvants. You can't give children these vaccines without these added little bonuses like aluminum. First they use mercury, then they use aluminum. Without the adjuvants, vaccines don't work. We could spend an hour just talking about adjuvants. Mm-hmm. So they are by design toxic, by design. Right. And also, to Stephanie's point before, you need those viruses to help compose your microbiome, which are made of bacteria, viruses, the microvirome, and fungi. They work in community to keep our kids strong. As we withdraw these vaccines, we have to work really hard to produce healthier kids, because they've been subject to toxicants for the past 30 years, just looking at the food supply. So it's going to take some immunologic repair to get people back on board.
Right. And then so these next points, 5, 6, and 7, have to do with evaluating the vaccines and trying to figure out which ones are good, which ones are better, give you more benefits than risk. So that's the question. If there's a vaccine that actually has more benefit than risk, then maybe people want to get it. But we need to know the answer as to whether they do or not. And we don't know that answer because they haven't been properly studied. So comprehensive safety review of all vaccines and combinations. They want to stop this RSV vaccination for pregnant women. I don't think any vaccines should go into a pregnant woman's body. And then this is an antibody. It's a monoclonal antibody that's used in infants.
And I have to jump in here. It's a genetically modified monoclonal antibody given to babies. That Beyfortus study, when in a French study that looked at Beyfortus, 12 infants died in that study. Like, that is a call for an immediate cessation of use of Beyfortus. That shouldn't even be out on the market.
Yeah, and then this one, 7, is important because we have all kinds of statistical evidence that the vaccines are causing more deaths than they are saving lives, but we don't have it directly on individual persons. So if we have individual data on people who are vaccinated, people who are not, and looking at the statistics on their performance, linked with a link between the mortality data and the actual knowledge of whether that particular individual was vaccinated or not. We have that data, but it's not well organized, and it's not easy to get it to be at a place where we could actually analyze that data. So it could be done to merge those data and get that and get that analysis done to see specifically those who weren't vaccinated with COVID, those who were, how are they doing? And then, so this research, extensive research program on vaccine injury syndromes, absolutely we need to do that. And we should be able to do much more than we have done. And in fact, there's this paper, which I really loved, this Vax on Vax book, which was written by Bobby Kennedy.
And Brian Hooker, PhD.
Brian Hooker and Bobby Kennedy collaborated to write this Vax on Vax book, where they talked about this paper that was written by Paul Thomas and someone else, I forget. Anyway, this paper was really excellent because he has a large practice, a pediatrician, and he has been very generous on allowing his parents to say, you know what, I don't want my child to get the vaccine. So he has a large population, much larger population than most pediatricians, of children who were never vaccinated. So he can compare them to children who were vaccinated. And he did a very clever thing, which could be done on a much larger scale, which is to just look at the number of visits to the doctor that were not just a regular checkup. Anytime you have an ear infection or you've got a rash, you come to the doctor, he counts those visits and he tabulates what it was. And he looks at the statistics on the kids who were not fully unvaccinated versus other groups, And so when you compare the fully unvaccinated with the fully vaccinated, huge differences he found in ADHD and eczema, asthma, all these different childhood conditions were much lower in the unvaccinated group. So it's very clear that they're healthier.
And Stephanie, and kudos to Paul, who lost his license, by the way, for producing this great study. 0 of the kids in his study who were unvaccinated, 561, that's a lot of kids, had ADHD, compared to 5.3% of the kids who were vaccinated or partially vaccinated had just ADHD, not even looking at the other disorders like asthma, allergies, eczema, autism. And so this is a landmark study. It got retracted when it was first published. They did not want this information out. And then Paul, and I believe it was James Lyons Wheeler, were able to study out, which is a key study. We don't have that many children in the US, less than 1%, who have not received any vaccines. But we can guarantee you with podcasts like ours and others that those numbers are going to start to tick up as moms say no more.
Yeah, this is the #1 book I recommend when I see people on Facebook groups and other areas asking, about should they get their child vaccinated. I say just look, #1, look at the ingredients, and #2, check out the book Vax versus Unvaxxed. Basically do the research and decide for yourself. So
absolutely, that's what people are going to need to do, because I think we need to get to a point where the mandates are gone. Like right now, you have to either prove a religious exemption or a medical exemption, and they have to agree to it in order to keep your child from getting vaccinated. Parents should not have to do that. They should be able to say, I don't want my child to get that vaccine, and the doctor says fine, right? That's how it should be. And we need to get rid of the concept of mandating the vaccines in order to attend school, I believe.
Well, I think the next administration is going to be on board with you with that, Stephanie.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, and we will. Michelle, you wanted to add something else, and we need to move on to the next few points.
Yeah, there's a lawsuit out right now for parents in hospitals with newborns whose babies got vaccinated with the RSV with the Hep B vaccine, not RSV, Hep B vaccine, against their will. And I believe Aaron Siri is litigating that lawsuit literally as we speak. We love you, Aaron Siri, and the next Attorney General in the U.S. and our vote. And so this is unconscionable. And it goes on in Canada as well, where they're trying to vaccinate kids in schools without parents' knowledge. The most important thing parents need to take away from this is informed consent. And there is no procedure, medication that you should receive from any practitioner without your thorough explanation receiving it. And you should not be discarded from a practice when you disagree with your practitioner. That's patient abandonment, and it should be illegal.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you so much.
All right, let's move on to the FDA. What type of changes do we want to see at the FDA?
Yes. Well, so now they have these last 4 here on the bottom have to do with corruption. And so this, I guess it's restricted covenant that prevents FDA officials working for pharmacies. This is the revolving door. Get rid of the revolving door. Because that is really not working well at all. You have people who are serving the FDA know that as long as they do their job right, which means please the companies, they'll get a fantastic salary and a nice position in the companies themselves once they step aside from this FDA. And so, pharmaceutical payments to the FDA for product reviews, and that's obviously the fox feeding the hen house, fox guarding the hen house. This is completely ridiculous that they're They're favoring the industry instead of favoring the health of the people. We need to change that. Remove the ability of government workers to hold patents and with big pharma. And again, the government workers make a lot of money off of the vaccines that are sold because they've done research on those vaccines. And that's really another situation where there's corruption. And then eliminate direct to consumer advertising from the pharmaceutical companies. That is something that's done only in the United States and in New Zealand, the only two countries in the world of direct to consumer advertising. And of course, it's helping to fund all the media, so they appreciate it to get all that money for those ads. But that's causing a great deal of increased taking of drugs, because the people learn about some drug and it sounds good and they go ask their doctor and the doctor gives it to them. So we need to get rid of that direct to consumer advertising. And this was an interesting paper about hidden conflicts. This is not that there was no conflict of interest at the time they made the decision about some drug to approve that drug. No conflict of interest. However, they know in the back of their mind that if they do approve that drug, they're going to get some reward in the future. This has just become so common that they recognize that. So now they're still motivated to approve it, even though they haven't received any compensation yet, because they know the compensation is coming. And so this showed, in fact, that was the case, that these people get rewarded in the future once they make a decision that favors the company. That's got to go too. So
yeah, I believe it's like $150,000 or something like that per approval per year for the lifetime of the drug or the person who's receiving the money. I mean, it's not chump change. It's not a small amount of money, just like the about up to $40,000 that pediatricians receive, right, Michelle, if their patients are the majority of their patients are vaccinated, and then that's why they get rid of a patient, because if that one won't add to their numbers and contribute to them getting a bonus, then they want them out of their practice. So it all comes down to money for us. Can we show the slide on ending corruption in health agencies?
Yes. So we've got these 3 mandates that Kennedy said, he spoke about this, 3 mandates that Trump gave him for him to have this position. And the first one was to end the corruption in health agencies, which of course we know very well by this point. And that's what's just talked about in those 12 steps as well. We need to sever those corrupt ties and bring the agencies back to the people. And then bring back real science. Now, I love this one because I think a lot of the science that they're doing is targeted towards trying to find some drug that's going to suppress some enzyme that's going to, change the blood pressure. I mean, they're focused on very narrow scientific goals of coming up with a drug that they can show is going to have some pretend benefit in many cases because it changes some number, but it doesn't actually fix the problem. Like statin drugs, clobbering your liver's ability to make cholesterol. That is not a good thing to do, but it gives you good numbers on your blood, so you think you've made progress. So we need to do real science and to really get to the basis of what is actually causing all these chronic disease problems that we're facing today. And then the third one is to reverse America's chronic disease epidemic. And that, of course, is number one for me. I think it's just disgusting that our country is doing so badly. So many people are suffering from autoimmune disease and cancer, various brain problems, Alzheimer's in the elderly, autism and ADHD in the children, all the depression and anxiety, and then, of course, asthma and eczema. We just have a huge list of diseases that have been going up dramatically over time, and we need to get to the bottom of it. And I believe personally that they're all the chemicals. We have way too many chemicals. I single out 2 factors myself that I think could make a huge difference. I think if we just got rid of glyphosate and didn't replace it with other herbicides, we would see a reversal. And if we cut way back on the vaccines, maybe even stop doing the vaccination, because I think it's a flawed science. I bet you we would see, he has a goal to show improvement in 2 years. And I think he will achieve it, Kennedy. If he's allowed to do what he wants to do, he will achieve that success story.
And it needs to happen. Absolutely. Our children are suffering and the future of our country is suffering.
I know if we have unhealthy kids, we're not going to be able to maintain a future of prosperity. And I feel like we're going to be in a situation where everybody who's well is spending all their time taking care of somebody who's sick, because we've got a lot of very sick people with a lot of need. And of course, the autistic kids are growing up. So the epidemic is now going to reach the adult level, already is. And it just becomes a tremendous burden on the society.
Absolutely. Well, and then we already mentioned this slide. So everybody just go to episode 17. We're not going to get into deuterium again right now, but what is deuterium and why does it matter? And Dr. Stephanie Seneff gives a cutting edge presentation followed by a conversation regarding the clinical ramifications of little known deuterium. So thank you very much, Stephanie, for your.
I just want to say one more thing, which is Laszlo Boros, the one who introduced me to deuterium in December of 2019. He wants to serve as the head of a new institute of Deuteronomics Institute, National Deuteronomics Institute, that could be created by this administration, and he would be delighted to head that institute. And he is number one person in the West on that topic. He's an expert on deuterium. So I'm excited about that.
Let's make sure we get his name to the new administration and see that if we can make that happen.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Stephanie. And we want to weigh in also on, Stephanie mentioned that the lack of real science happening in the administrations. We didn't talk about the EPA very much, but we are happy to see that the EPA is being forced to evaluate how pesticides harm hormonal systems in humans and wildlife. So it seems like perhaps somebody at the EPA is concerned about keeping their jobs when the next administration comes into play, and they actually want to do something about it. So Michelle, did you want to add in something about this of hormones?
Well, I'm so excited to see this, of course, but the EPA didn't step up and volunteer to do this. It took a lawsuit headed by the Center for Food Safety and other organizations to say, hey, let's look at the hormonal systems in pesticides. And a shout out to our dear friend Judy Hoy, who's been doing wildlife research in Montana for decades, which showed how these pesticides interrupt endocrine function in animals because of hormone signaling. And so I just wanted to also share that we're going to be able to test kids through this endocrine disruptor screening program in the future. But there is a new product on the market. It's been out for about a year or two called My Exposome. It's a silicone bracelet that will monitor over 1,500 different environmental toxicants, including phthalates, BPA, flame retardants, and pesticides. Over 1,500. Interestingly, glyphosate and glufosinate were not included, which don't ask, but we have the capacity now of monitoring kids with these little silicone bracelets for their environmental toxicant load, which is huge. This is just huge. And the EPA, of course, I think out of 1,315 different registered pesticides for endocrine disruption, they tested fewer than 50. So solution?
That's not real science when you don't test for the chemicals that are being actually that you want to identify. And they did the same thing when I worked at the Organic Product Advisory Board for the Secretary of Ag, as a consumer representative. The FDA and the USDA, the California FDA and the federal FDA tested for 2 and 3 of the most widely used herbicides and pesticides in our food supply. They only tested for 2 or 3 out of the top 25. That list was given to me by the EPA. So that's, again, not real science, not what is actually happening that's not an actual and accurate portrayal of the level of toxins in our food supply. Same thing with endocrine disruptors. By the way, that number, the 1,315 registered pesticides for endocrine disruption here in the United States, do you know what it is in Switzerland, in Europe? Switzerland allows 3. Wow. We allow over 1,300. So that just shows another example of how the U.S. is failing the U.S. regulatory agencies are failing the American people. Other countries are doing a far better job, and we need to do that. Another way that we need to do a better job is with fluoride in our water. This is not allowed in many countries around the world. And I'm sure, Michelle, you've got something to say about fluoride in the water.
Oh, God, this is a 2-hour show right here on fluoride. And we've been just drinking the system the 1940s. And this was introduced, I believe, in Flint, Michigan, as an end product from aluminum production, as you know, where fluoride does come from. Fluoride's been known to be super toxic for thyroid, mental health, lowers IQ, toxic to fetuses. And we've known this for a long time, but the American Dental Association fought back on this one, saying it lowered the rate of cavities, which in a big study out of the UK called the Lotus study was shown not to be true. But have no fear, hats off to California on this one, hooray, San Francisco area where I live. There was a recent ruling, I believe it's in September, that fluoride indeed is toxic. And Florida, thank you, Joe Ladapo, the Surgeon General of Florida, says, let's get it out of the drinking water. 75% of Americans have fluoride in their drinking water. Do we all need to have various filters in our kitchens before we drink the water? This is egregious. So fluoride needs to go. It was not shown to ban cavities, and it's
And I
just
will add one thing, which is that it's actually a toxic byproduct of the phosphate fertilizer industry.
also.
They need to get rid of the toxic byproduct, so they just distribute it over the country and poisoned everybody a little bit.
And so we got to get, so this should be not a state by state ban, which was what it is right now, but a federal ban.
A federal ban. And I want to give a shout out to the Moms Against Fluoridation. I know the mom that headed it up in Asheville, North Carolina. I love her to death. She doesn't like notoriety, so I won't mention her, but I just want to do a shout out. It was a mom who started this, who raised $2 million to sue the EPA, who had the chutzpah to say, I'm going to do this. Wow. So, excuse me, one second. Maybe you could say something else about fluoride.
Yeah. One more thing about fluoride is if that wasn't enough about fluoride, fluoride is comparable to lead. There is no safe level of lead. There is no safe level of fluoride. And the loss of IQ points that happen with both those toxic metals is not recoverable. So this needs to be removed yesterday and get the fluoride out. And there are dental agencies, the IAOMT, the International Academy for, I think, medical something in toxicology. I'm sorry, IAOMT, but has a great position paper on fluoride. They are biologic dentists, and they've been shouting about the harms for decades about fluoride.
We have an image to show for that, right?
I believe we do. I believe we do.
It actually causes fluoridosis of the teeth. So they say it's good for the teeth, but it's actually bad for the teeth.
Fluorosis causes stippling, and it also causes hardening of the bones, which become more brittle and increase the rate of fractures.
Yeah, and it combines with aluminum to form aluminum fluoride, which actually is a phosphate mimetic, and that messes up a whole bunch of stuff in biology.
There you go. That's why we're the new MDs, bringing the clinical, the scientific to the moms and dads.
Yes, and empowering moms and dads to be able to say, no, that's not what I want. If they trust what you're saying, and IAOMT, the newest research about fluoride. I do want to mention the movie Our Daily Dose, which is also headed up by a filmmaker and the same woman who sued the EPA. Filmmaker Jeremy Seifert out of Asheville, that talks all about fluoride. So, one more minute, please.
Yeah. So while we're waiting for Zen to do that, just so people know, if they do need water filters, the EWG, Environmental Working Group, I believe, has one of the best ways. You have to be very specific in making sure your carbon-based filter, that'd be the most affordable, does remove fluoride. So you have to check to see that filter does remove the fluoride. My county is fluoridated, so we have to drink filtered water here.
And Hawaii kept it out. We had activists way back when that said no, and we've never been fluoridated. So
excellent. That's amazing. Yeah, it's all about speaking up, folks. All right. So recently, Moms Across America has been, of course, speaking up on social media, and we have a post that went viral that I think sums it up very nicely, what we want MAHA to do. Which is not just the government, but we want food companies to start your reformulations now or plan your exit. We do not want GMOs, glyphosate, pesticides, heavy metals, synthetic food dyes, PFAS, phthalates, corn syrup, and seed oils. We know it takes time, so start now. And we're happy that David Wolf shared that, and we would love for other people to share it. And, the thing that's really cool about this post, I think, going viral, is that when we started about 12 years ago, most people didn't know what half of those words meant, right? There has been a huge leap in the awareness of these toxic chemicals in our food supply. It is fair to say that most of us 10 or 12 years ago walked into a grocery store and just trusted that everything that was there had been actually, regulated for safety by the FDA or the EPA or some type of regulatory agency. And we know now that is, for the most part, not happening, and we need to take matters into our own hands. That's why Moms Across America has done so much testing. But we are seeing some food manufacturers take matters into their own hands. For instance, Mullen's Dairy Bar recently posted on social media, and there's a picture of Robert Kennedy having ice cream at Mullen's Dairy Bar back in the 60s, I believe it was. And so Mullen's Dairy Bar of today has they posted an announcement that they have transitioned their ice cream away from all artificial dyes, such as red 40, yellow 5, and blue 1. Food dyes can have an adverse neurobehavioral effects on children and teens, they say, and our most beloved customers. As parents of small children, this subtle change was a no-brainer for the Mullins team. We'd like to applaud Tanya Morris, our production manager, for driving the change at Mullins Dairy Bar. And please stay tuned, because Moms Across America's team member Ann Temple has recently interviewed Mullins Dairy Bar. She happens to live right near them, and so we'll be putting out that article and or video on momsacrossamerica.org. Thank you so much for doing that, Ann. All right, one more thing we want to mention. Maybe we've mentioned some of these already, but this is our Moms Across America wish. Like, what we're excited about MAHA potentially poised to do is to require testing for heavy metals. If you don't know this, the FDA currently is not testing for heavy metals in anything except for applesauce. They have some guidelines for baby food and candy. They are not regulating for heavy metals in our food supply in any other food. So that is something that needs to happen. We want to ban GMOs unless actually proven safe. We want to actually get rid of this GRAS, generally recognized as safe type of classification, unless these things are actually proven safe. We, of course, are on board with banning water fluoridation, banning glyphosate and agrochemical toxins as a drying agent and in farming. We want vaccine safety, and we do not want mandates. We also want to make school lunches nutrient dense and not made out of junk food. We would like to subsidize companies in using real ingredients and support the ones that are using, of course, organic nutrient dense food, and give tax breaks to companies producing those real foods without poisons, and also restaurants using no industrial poisons and seed oils. So these are just a few of the things that we would like to have happen. Let's get to more of like what the solutions are, what people can do at home. Dr. Pero, if you were America's doctor or America's Surgeon General, you may not actually be, but we'll just pretend you are for a little bit. And for people who, don't want to wait for what the government is going to do, what can Americans do in their house right now as America's doctor? Let's just say you are. What would you suggest?
Oh, we love being solutionaries here, Zen. Sure. This is what I'm proposing: regain the terrain, because a sick terrain, you can't grow great kids. You can't grow great plants either. Making our children well. Bobby, if you're listening, I know you have a few things on your calendar. This is for you, Mocha. Make our children healthy again. What does that look like? So 10 steps, super simple, super derived from common sense. Organic food whenever possible, and you avoid GMOs. They're not good. There are studies showing that not bueno. And you wash fruits and vegetables thoroughly before eating. Remember, GMOs and pesticides, if it's a genetically modified food, it's in the cell. It cannot be washed off. And when you buy organic, you will not be eating pesticides. Now, according to the USDA, about 5 to 9% of our foods are cross-contaminated with pesticides, and the average food has over 6 pesticides. Synergistic effects from various groups, not studied. Until Zen and Moms Across America came out with this study, I had no idea how toxic those school lunches were. And that's what inspired us, the new MDs, to look at infant formula, by the way, and toxic metals. We produced that study in May. Until this is fixed, send your child to school with a lunch. And if you have the means, send them with an extra lunch for perhaps that kid who can't afford a really nice home-cooked meal. And we need to be making lunches at school like they do in France. I did a talk once on school lunches across the US compared to other countries, and ours was shocking. Let's go to number 3. Avoid processed foods. It's a no-brainer. They're full of pesticides, emulsifiers, even organic, because emulsifiers are toxic to the microbiome, that collection of bugs that you need, and preservatives. And these chemicals, many of them are obesogens. Obesogens is a term which means makes us fat. So that means everybody in the kitchen. You didn't hear me say just mom, right? That would mean everybody, kids included. And as we've said before, children love cutting with knives. They have children-friendly knives, particularly those boys. Okay, this needs to go. Number 4, ditch the microwave. The Russians studied toxicity from microwave radiation in the 1970s. There's no good use of microwave, and it changes the chemical structure of food. If you use it with plastic, like they do in our kids' school lunches, the plastic drips into the food. So they're getting a dose of plastics in their pretend chicken. So we say no. Water filters, we've been touching on this throughout the show today. If you use a fridge one, don't forget to change it. Like, it can't be 2 years since you've changed it. Like every 6 months, that filter needs to be checked and changed, particularly those carbon-based filters. If you have a whole house system, they're called reverse osmosis. That's a whole nother topic. So air filters, if you're an urban dweller and you live on a busy street, air pollution will definitely come into your home. And it's a leading number one, believe it, it even tops food of toxicity for kids. So you need these HEPA filters, which are expensive. Oh, don't worry. Get some spider plants. They're so easy to grow. It's one of at least 10 different house plants that cleans the air. Put one in every room in your house. They're very forgiving. Those little baby offshoots can easily be transplanted. I have spider plants everywhere. I walk the walk, talk the talk. So expensive HEPA filter? Sure. Spider plants? Yes, thumbs up. We've done shows on this. We will continue to do shows on Wi-Fi. You have to reduce exposure to kids' Wi-Fi. It's especially children have thin cortical skulls, and that radiation goes into their brains and causes changes. If you must use Wi-Fi in your house and you're not hardwired, shut off the routers at night. And apartment dwellers, please look outside your child's bedroom, because sometimes all the routers are on one side of a building, an apartment building, and that may be outside your kid's bedroom. So, and there are ways to remediate that too, if you're unable to move.
Can I just add in, Michelle, we want to, if before anybody rents an apartment or buys a house, they want to make sure that the smart meters are also not outside their children's bedroom. They can be, big factors of EMFs, and your router that is not in your kid's bedroom. You can put a router, you know what I mean? The Wi-Fi router should not be in your child's bedroom or in your office or in your bedroom either. It should be in a part of the house that's separate from everybody. And if you want to go to momsacrossamerica.org and see how to hardwire your home, that is the best thing. I just want to add this in, people can go to momsacrossamerica.org and go to data. And I believe that's where we have a wireless information and, 5G radiation information there on how to hardwire your home.
Thank you for that, Zen. This is super important. And regarding those smart meters, you can opt out. And sometimes you have to pay a fee. Here in California, we had to pay $75 to opt out. And if you're in an area where you can't opt out, they have something called a Faraday cage, and you can learn to kind of block the Wi-Fi mittens from those smart meters that are sending signals literally constantly 24/7. So I don't recommend smart meters at all. And if you have to, cage them. Number 8, we have 10 of these. Number 8 is take your shoes off the door. I have been unsuccessful in my house. Good luck in your house. Why is that? The toxicants are on your shoes and you track them into your home, and then little Susie and Johnny are running around the floor. Kids are closer to the ground, as well as your pets. More hand to mouth behaviors goes right in their little mouths. And then they're going to need those little silicone bracelets to monitor their toxicant loads. 9, please do not use those flea collars on your pets. They are so toxic with pyrethroids and imidacloprid and other herbicides and pesticides, actually insecticides against fleas. Fleas are nasty, but you can use various substances like, I keep saying bentonite clay, but it's actually not bentonite clay.
Diatomaceous earth.
Diatomaceous earth. You can take bentonite clay to clear it up, but diatomaceous earth, you can sprinkle it on your carpet. I put it in my chickens' laying boxes. Just don't breathe this stuff. You don't want to breathe it. It's a little toxic, but that's you can take it to get rid of pesticides. This is not medical advice, folks, but it's really effective, and you can brush that on your animals. I've done it before, and in your chicken laying boxes. I know
not just
have chickens.
Sorry, Michelle, not before you go to the next one, not just the flea collars, the flea pills as well. If you look up, did NexGard kill my dog? There's like 40,000 people who are saying yes, including myself and my dog. So please be careful with the toxic flea medications for dogs.
And both my dogs died of cancer from drinking my neighbor's glyphosate sprayed yard. I know we're in it too, folks. We're right there experiencing the same problems. We are not immune.
And you can't sue for pets because they're considered objects. They're Yeah, their lives are apparently not something that you can sue over.
And I actually call them my animal companions. I don't even call them my pets because even that has sort of a demeaning tone. So I say my animal companions. And last but not least, prioritize environmental health. This has to be a whole family all in. You can't be giving your kids kale salad and you're sneaking the junk food like we did in my house when my kids were little. My husband hid it in the closet and my little toddler CSI agents found that junk food like in minutes. So what I say is this is whole family. Everyone's involved in the kitchen. Dining in is the new dining out. We make nutritious whole foods together, and eating together has been shown to improve mental health of your teens. They want to get away from you. You want to kind of rein them back in for that family dinner, bring them back. And so this is our love through nourishing traditions, nourishing foods. Weston A. Price, I borrow that. Making the invisible visible, borrow that from Health Research Institute Labs. But this is what we're trying to do. And I think every show we wind up with this messaging, which is no doom and gloom. It's positive and solution-based.
Absolutely. And we just want to mention one more time that the solution for getting the toxins out of our food, one of the main and primary solutions that we want to promote is regenerative organic farming. And there was an interview recently with Joel Salatin, one of our favorite farmers, and Bobby Kennedy. I've actually been to Salatin's farm. We posted some posts about it on TikTok and Instagram. And we have an image of that interview with Joel Salatin and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Do we not? Well, Joe Salatin owns Polyface Farms, so you can look up Polyface Farms. Also, farmlikealunatic.com is Joe Salatin's website, and he's called a lunatic because he says he has a t-shirt for it. It says everything I want to do is illegal, and that is because the FDA does not allow him, for instance, to not vaccinate his animals. Although I think he can do some of that now, and also not sell raw milk, right? That is something that a lot of states still do not allow. So with people like Joel Salatin, Bobby Kennedy supporting regenerative organic farmers like him, then we can get the toxins out of the food supply, the heavy metals out of the food supply. We can have nutrient-dense food, and we can restore America's health and make America's health healthy again. So we're going to close up now because we're 2 minutes over. Which is not bad. We usually go a little bit over, but we really appreciate you hanging with us. And but do stay tuned with us on December 17th because we pushed our show back a week last month because of the holiday. December 17th, so we have 2 shows in December. This one is December 17th. We have a big reveal. We have test results that we are going to reveal that pretty much affect almost everybody in America. They are shocking results, and we would love for you to tune in and share with your friends and family. So thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you, Dr. Pero. Thank you, Stephanie Seneff. We appreciate you, Anne, in production, and all of the people who support. Please donate to GMO Science to help continue the show. If you can, donate to Moms Across America as well. Thank you very much for your support. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.